Hello everyone and welcome to All Hands on Tech Live. I'm your host today, Jeremy Morgan. I do these streams every Tuesday. David Neal does them every Thursday. And for our Tuesday stream, we like to build JavaScript games. So we're working on a JavaScript game called Totally Awesome. And that's what we're working on today is we're going to add some things to our Totally Awesome game. So this is your first time tuning into this stream, sorry, I'm stumbling on my words today. If this is your first time stumbling onto this stream, we're building a JavaScript game. We're using Phaser.js framework. We've put it together from scratch, and we've got some enemies on there. We've got some levels. We've got all kinds of cool stuff. Today, we're going to make some items for you to collect. So let's jump right in here. And I have Visual Studio Code open. And I'm going to do my quick tech check just to make sure we are live where we say we are live. So today we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, Twitch, quite a few different areas today, but we're always on Twitch. Okay, there we go. Just making sure that all of my ducks are in a row today. So let's display the game. First, let's show the game. Here we'll go in and this is the most recent GitHub. Make sure we've got the most recent. We do. We're using npm serve for this. I'm going to say localhost 3000. This is our game. Our game is called Totally Awesome. It's a Ninja Toad that runs around a screen right now. There's not a lot to it, but we've spent some time over the last few weeks really building this thing up. As you can see, we've got a couple enemies. We want to avoid them because they will kill us. And the goal here is to get up to this top platform. And as you can see right now, I can see a physics problem where I cannot get to that top platform. However, that is the goal of the game. If you hit an enemy, you die. So we put in these start screens. We put in some game over screens. And then you can reset the game. That was our big win last week, was putting in those scenes so we can just reset and go. Today, I want to make it so we can collect some things. I want to be able to collect items, increment your score based on those items, and who knows what else. We might do some stuff with the enemies. We don't really know yet. Oops, I lost the focus. So I'm going to keep this thing here open. We're going to keep our console open. That way we can watch the console because we're going to be doing some stuff. So the first thing we want to do is add some stuff to grab. And I think what we're going to grab is some cherries. Do I still have this open? I do. So these are the assets for Totally Awesome that we have so far. And we've drawn up some of these, and some of these have come from a pixel art package that I purchased that was pretty cool. And by the way, I need to, let's see. I need to put up a link to our playable version of this game. I'll drop that in the stream chat. Here is the playable version of our game. I think this will go everywhere except LinkedIn. So I will put this in LinkedIn. Playable version of our game. And then the GitHub. So I'm sharing all of this stuff on GitHub also. go to my GitHub, go to Totally Awesome. Here it is. And this is the GitHub link. I'll also post that on LinkedIn. There we go. These are the playable, that's the playable version and the GitHub. So if you want to take this and just kind of go wild with it, you can. I know that some people have forked this game already. Kind of interested to see where that goes. But all of this code is available, so you can download it, you can run it. You can make your own modifications and do cool stuff with it. It'll be cool. So I'm going to pick cherries. This is going to be a fruit. And there it is in Photoshop. This is going to be a fruit that we try to collect. And we'll have it increment our score as we collect it. That's going to be the goal of the stream today, is adding some items to collect. Now, I'm going to name this cherry. Oh, I already have cherry PNG in here. So this is cherry.png. This comes from this pixel pack from Itch. It's really cool. So we've done some original art and some downloaded art from the library. So we have our cherries here. The first thing we need to do is load in this sprite sheet. Now, in here we have, you can see that we've loaded in our sprite sheets before. We've loaded in the sky, the terrain, all kinds of stuff in here. So we're just going to put cherries. This load sprite sheet. Look at that. It automatically, we're going to call this cherry. Singular cherry. And what was our file name? Cherry.png. So our autocomplete was almost correct. Cherry.png. And we load in that sprite sheet. Then we need to create a physics group. Now we've done this before on previous streams, where the physics group basically is a whole bunch of properties that are assigned to the player, they're assigned to the enemy. When they bump into each other, they do things, all of that. We can just assign a physics group so that we don't have to get, down and dirty with all of the little details with that. We can just kind of throw it in there. So we have enemy here, we have colliders. We'll try to keep it separate from colliders. And I can see I kind of messed up on the comments here. Mad bird and a bluebird. And we will create a cherry. We should say create a cherry group, because we're creating a group of them. And for this one, let's say this. Cherries is this physics add group. So that's going to be our cherry physics group. Now, have we been bundling the physics together previously? I don't know. Yeah, we have colliders here. So we could put this in with the colliders. That kind of seems to fit. I do want to do even more reorganization on this. So we reorganized it last week and the week before. And we've made this code a lot easier to work with, read, and modify by putting it into a class structure, doing some other things. So we've stepped off. When we first started this, we started from a tutorial that's available on Phaser, and we did it the way they said to do it, which is very simple, very basic. Now we've made this more advanced, and it's a little bit easier to work with. We're going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to do things. So I'm not an expert JavaScript programmer, but I've been a software developer and engineer for many, many years. And so I'm going to try to use some of that knowledge to make this a little more object-oriented, a little more organized, things like that, so that we can make quick additions. Like this actually should go pretty quick, by the way we've had this set up. So we create the cherries group. Now we need to create an animation. So we did see here that there's animated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's 17 of these. it looks like. So we want that animation to be a part of our animations, which are down here. We have the player movement, we have enemy movement, we have all kinds of animations in here. So we're just going to do a cherry animation. It's going to be very similar to these. We're going to call it, I don't know, cherry spin or something. So this, anim's create, and let the autocomplete work here. So we have cherry spin. We're going to start and end at 16 for this particular one. Maybe 15, maybe I miscounted. 17 seems a little weird. 1, 2, 3, or 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, it is 17 frames, which I think is a little interesting, but whatever. So we're going to start at 0. We're going to end at 16. Frame rate of 20. I don't know actually what the frame rate is for this, but okay. And so far, we probably won't see anything different on the screen yet. You know, we still got our enemies. We're going to have to create a function to spawn these cherries and just kind of drop them randomly in different spots. Hello, Johnny B. Cat. Thank you for joining the stream. We need a cup of Java to script in JavaScript. I don't have a cup of Java, but I do have an energy drink and ice water, which ice water is it's kind of my secret weapon. I don't drink a ton of coffee or energy drinks. I decided to do an energy drink today, but don't drink a lot of coffee, which I know is weird for a programmer. But I drink tons and tons of ice water. So nothing different with our screen so far. Now, what I decided to do as I was researching this is I decided to break this off into its own little function to spawn the cherries, just because there's a lot of stuff to it, and I may want to reroute this function. I may want to refactor it, you know, something like that. So I'm going to call this spawn cherries. What are we going to do in spawn cherries? We're going to randomly drop them on the screen. So we could, let's see, I've got some code. How do you have a spawn appear without colliding with existing objects? I'm not really checking for that right now, actually, but that is a very good point, that we should check for collisions as we're spawning them. But I think when they do spawn and there's another, because sometimes the enemies spawn and then it kills you instantly, but we moved them up to the top. But sometimes I think if it spawns near the player, it will just kill the player instantly. But that's why we move the enemies up on the top, so they spawn from the top, basically. So I'm going to take some of my code that I've already written here, so you don't have to watch me type it out. The first thing we're going to do something a little bit new today, and this is something that I found in Phaser. To randomize, we're going to randomize some of this stuff. So the first thing we want to do is create the cherry, I guess, right? So we'd let cherry equals, and we can have it add a sprite. We'll do this. This cherries create, and autocomplete is going nuts with this stuff. We're going to say X, Y, and we're going to create our cherry object. Now, how are we going to get the X and Y? I will show you. Oh, look at that. This is pretty close to what I want to type out here in my autocomplete. But I want to do the math between function and, let's see, math between 0. Actually, the config width maybe the autocorrect is correct here. So what I was going to do is do a math between like 50 and 750 to get that random number. Basically, we're just generating a random XY coordinate on the screen. But if we do this, height, let's try this. I like this actually. We're just taking a random number between 0 and the width of the game. And then for the Y, we're doing another random number between the top of the game and the bottom of the game. So maybe this will work. So let's just spawn one cherry for now. And we're going to do cherry set bounce because we want this to bounce a little bit, kind of like our players do. You can see in our autocomplete, we've got cherry set collide world bounds. That's also something that we do with pretty much all of these. And then we do we're not going to move it, so it's suggesting that select velocity. We're going to play it. So we'll do anims. We'll play that cherry spin animation that we just made. And let's just see if, so we have spawn cherries. We'll put that up in create. And we'll just have it spawn cherries. Let's see what this looks like. We'll spawn one cherry. There's our cherry, and it's down at the bottom. So we're gonna have to add some colliders to that. Because I can get that cherry. I gotta wait for these enemies to pass by. I can get that cherry, but that's not a very good place for the cherry. Not super optimal. So let's put some colliders in here. And with the colliders, say this. With the colliders, it should collide with the objects and, of course, the player. So say add this physics, add collider, cherry and ground layer. That's pretty good. Make it so it doesn't, or collides with the ground. So we know the cherry will at least be above the ground. There we go. And I think I want to spawn the cherries a little bit higher because this is twice in a row now that we've had a cherry down there, which is fine, except I really want the cherries to be kind of up on the top to kind of discourage. Maybe put a cherry down there. As I refresh it, it looks like it just wants to put them kind of down there. Look at that. That's kind of cool. There's a lot of bounce to that cherry. Probably going to fix that. Let's set our set bounce to like 0.5. Because that's just too much bounce on there. There we go. Maybe that's too little of bounce, but that's not too bad. All right, let's add another collider in here with platform layer. Now by doing this, if it lands on a platform, it will also collide. Not just the ground, but the platform. And we don't see any cherries that time. There we go. There's one down there. So let's adjust it to go a little bit higher. So instead of random between 0, let's say random between 200. Let's bring that up just a little bit. There we go. So that's perfect. And you can see it collides with the platform layer. I'd still like to start a little bit higher. Maybe I'm totally misunderstanding how this works. Maybe I have my coordinates wrong. I don't know. Yeah, I think I do. Okay. So this one can be 0. This one should be like 200. So we can spawn them a little bit higher. There we go. Even higher. So it doesn't seem to be terribly random. And it seems to spawn them all down below. There we go. There's another one that's up there. And so we're going to spawn more than one cherry, but right now we're just kind of focusing on this cherry here. And check my chat just to be sure. Okay, so we have the 2 collision layers. Let's create like 7 of these cherries. To do that, we can just put a loop around this thing. Here's a loop to create 10 cherries. Let's see, 10 I think might be too much, but we'll see. Yeah, 10's a little much. But as you can see, we've got a lot of cherries that all seem to be on one side, so I am messing this up a little bit. Because I did that on I had the coordinates right. This one, I don't care which one they go, but this one, I would like the math to be between. And we're going to do a little console logging here to kind of see where these are coming out. This should start them out a little higher. And what I'm going to do is say console log X and Y, console log this sys game config height. And as we randomize these, we can kind of see where we're really going with it. It is 640. And we are generating them. It's pretty high. Maybe 500. Trying to make these things spawn a little bit higher. That makes it lower. So yeah, I'm just confused is all. Between 100 and instead of height, let's generate these between 100 and 400. That's a little bit more what I'm looking for. Maybe 0 to 400 should be pretty good. 0, maybe even 300. So they all start from the top half of the screen. That's what I'm looking for right there. Something from the top half of the screen. Da, 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 watch out. So far we don't have any collision between the objects and me, and we're going to need to fix that eventually. I think I know exactly where that is, by the way, hopefully. But we've got some good cherry creating code here. I think I am going to make it 7 for lucky number 7. 7 cherries per round. And actually, we could use that as a parameter, and we could make it spawn more cherries or less cherries depending on something, right? But we'll see. quick tech check really quick here. All right, cool. Just making sure we're still up online everywhere we say we're going to be online. We have a ton of people on LinkedIn today, so hello everybody for LinkedIn. That's awesome. So we've got some cherries. One of the things I want to do is create a score. And in order to do that, we're going to have to count the collision detection between the player. And every time the player collects a cherry, we need to destroy the cherry and add to the points. And I'm thinking 10 points a cherry, and just kind of add those points. So every time we go through here, bleep, 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 we'll collect them. As soon as we've collected them all, we want to spawn a new set. So this is starting to become more like a real game. Like you can die. We've made it so that the enemies come and kill you and the enemies hit you. And now we need to make a goal. We need to make something other than just getting through the level without dying. We need to try to collect some things as we're doing it. So that's what we're doing here. Now I'm going to break this out into another function again, like I did with spawn cherries. I'm going to call this one collect cherry. And for collect cherry, yeah, I will pass in player and cherry. So this is something that's going to get called, I'll put this in the comments, called when player collides with a cherry. First thing we want to do is disable it. We have that in our autocomplete. Cherry disable body is true. Do we want it to play an animation? We don't really have a good animation. Maybe we can make this thing explode or something. Like when you collect a cherry, that might be kind of cool. I don't know. We'll see. But at least here we can say this disable body true. Let's see. How will I do this? The score, we need to create a score, but for now we can say this score. We're going to say plus equals 100. Maybe it's 100 points of cherry. Why not? So every time the player collides with the cherry, this score, it increments by 100. We should probably put some score text up there, right? So we'll go up here into create. Put this below input events and create a connection. Create a section for scoring. And my autocomplete is pretty freaking close to what I want. So I'm going to hit tab. By the way, I'm using tab 9 for my code completion. I love it. It's awesome. It's super helpful. It's not 100% accurate. It's just like GitHub Copilot, which I'll start using GitHub Copilot on here a little bit more. GitHub Copilot's another one that I use that's pretty cool. And it does a lot of autocomplete for you. It kind of guesses based on what you're writing. There are some applications that I have written that that GitHub Copilot and tab 9 don't know a whole lot about, so they just copy my coding style. But I've noticed for Phaser, tab 9 is really well trained on Phaser. You could probably write an entire Phaser game just by putting in prompts and hitting tab. It's kind of incredible. But here we're going to add a score text. Let's see what that looks like. Totally awesome. Oh, look at that. We've got a score up at the top and our score is 0. But we want to make it so every time we collect these, they disappear and they increment the score. So we're getting close to that. We need to add an overlap for that. And we worked with overlaps before when we were doing the enemies, we worked with overlaps. So we're going to just put in an overlap in there. We'll put that up in the physics kind of area here. Create a cherry group. We can put in when the player collides with a Jerry. So we'll add an overlap here. So I'm not going to add a collider, but an overlap. This physics add overlap. The overlap will be between this player and this cherry. So we could say this player, this cherries, and then it wants to create an anonymous function here. However, we are going to do this collect cherry instead of an anonymous function. So this should actually work pretty much as we've done it. Yep, there we go, but it's not incrementing the score, which is fine because we need to redraw that score. Actually, it might be incrementing the score. Let's find out. But it's not incrementing it yet. So we're going to say console log the score. We're going to take out in spawn cherries, we had these console logs. We're just going to comment them out really quick because we don't, or just delete them. Deleting code feels good. It's fun. So, totally awesome. Start again. And yeah, we can see over here in the console that our score is indeed being updated, but it needs to be redrawn up on the screen. So that's not a big deal. We'll go down here, console log the score, and we'll just copy and paste from our score text. We'll say this score text, update it in here. I do need to mess with the fonts a little bit, change those. Let me check notes here. Make sure I'm doing this stuff correctly. Spawn enemies. I've got notes that are just wild in here, but we're going to say this score text equals score this score and we'll see if this increments it properly. We may have to reset all the fonts and everything. I don't know yet. Oh, yeah, because it just writes a whole different one. So this score text is up here. We're going to copy this and just copy and paste it exactly. Score plus the score, and this should overwrite it exactly so it's generated in real time as we go. Yikes. So not quite. So let's blank it out first. This score text. Let's null it first. And I might have to go back into the directions and see exactly how to do this, because I'm not understanding it correctly, as you can see. As our score goes up to 600, the old scores keep staying in there. One thing we could do is, I know a way we can fix this. Maybe we don't want to put this in here at all. we want to increment the score, but in update. Let's put this in our update function. Go all the way down to the bottom. This score, what's this score? So for our setup, do that. Let's see, an update, I think, should do what we're looking for. Negative. We are still overriding that score. I mean, it's working. It's just not working the way we'd like. Dink. So we'll take, we know we have this score equals 0. We know that one works how we want. Let's take this out of update for now, because that is also overriding it. Maybe it's because I'm doing add text, and maybe there's a way to update text. Like set text instead of add text. Because I just noticed out of the corner of my eye here, yeah, that's adding text to update text. Let's see if that makes a difference. Totally awesome. Update text is not a function. I thought for sure it was a function. This score text equals this. We have add text. We have update. Is it just update? It's this score text equals, let's see, this score text, update text, something like that. Nope. That's all right, we'll figure it out. Let me check my, let's see, this add text. Do some quick research here. Be set text. So I'm going to go back to what I had before, and we're going to use set text. It's not update text, it's set text. So this spawn cherries, this score text is this add text, and it's going to add that. Then we should be able to update it down here. So this, or not update it, but add, or set text. Set text is a little bit different than add text. So this score text, set text, and then score and this score. This should do what we want it to do. Score 0. Okay, we're learning this stuff together. There we go. So now it sets the text that's already drawn out there. It's giving us a score. Look at that. And we need to fix this. So now that we've got our little cherry stuff going, we need to fix when it jumps up, it resets over to the side. And that's part of our thing. So we made this so you can run back and forth from side to side. If you fall down the hole, it should come out the top. Oh, and it does not come out the top. So we have broken something since then, but that's up here in some checks that we do right here. Check if player is off screen. So what if we decide that we don't care if the player is off screen at the top? Because when he jumps up at the top, it can be off screen. Really doesn't matter. It's going to come back down anyway because of gravity. So maybe we just don't care about that. And checking the chat just to make sure nobody has any stuff. Okay. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I will be here to answer your questions, or if you send me a whisper or send me an email, jeremymorgan@pluralsight.com, I will definitely answer the questions or at least direct you to where the answer is. And as a reminder, follow us on Twitch. Always, 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 we're always on Twitch. All the time. We stream to Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube, sometimes Twitter, things like that. However, we always, always, always stream on Twitch. We sometimes stream on the other one. Sometimes the stream doesn't work, or sometimes we do a Twitch-only thing. But if you're watching this right now, you should definitely follow us on Twitch. We're going to be doing some cool stuff. In a couple weeks, I'm going to be down in New Orleans. Both David Neal and I, who are the folks that stream on this channel, we're going to be down in New Orleans. We're going to have some really cool guests that we're going to be talking to, really cool people that you have probably heard of. So you'll want to follow us here on Twitch because we're going to be doing some awesome Twitch shows here in a couple weeks. Also, David Neal, who's my cohort, streams here on Thursdays. He's also building a JavaScript game. So yeah, definitely want to follow us here on Twitch. And if you do follow us, we'll give you these cool stickers if you ask for them. So if you send me a whisper on Twitch or shoot me an email, we have some cool laptop stickers. I have these on my laptop, of course, but you could have them on yours. I'll send them to you, even if you're international. I have sent stickers to folks internationally. So that's an option. And yeah, thought I'd do that before we wrap up the hour. Let everyone know you can get those cool stickers. So right here, this I believe is the line of code where it says if this player Y is less than the worldview Y, then we're going to do this stuff. We don't want to do that stuff anymore. We want to be able to jump over it or jump up in the air up there and be fine. Let's collect all of our cherries. And as you can see, we kind of need to change the enemy stuff a little bit because these enemies are pretty easy to avoid right now. So you can collect cherries, but that's something we might work on next week. Okay, I've collected all the cherries. Da, 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 da. But what I wanted to check was da, 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 da. We can now jump out of there. We can officially get to our platform if we want to make that a thing where our player has to get to this platform, which I haven't totally decided on how we end this level yet. You know, if we collect a certain amount of fruits, we're going to add other fruits besides cherries. If you add a certain amount of cherries, or if you just make it to the top, maybe we make it so treacherous that making it up here to the top is very difficult. I don't know yet. And we have a first-time chatter here, Bloodmaster X3. Hi, what's up? We are writing a game. We're building a game in Phaser framework in JavaScript. So this is something that we've been working on our stream for a few weeks, continuing to work on it, making it cool. It's a little frog 2D platformer where we jump through these platforms and try to do cool stuff. And you're saying I'm a bit quiet. Okay, I'll crank this up a little bit. Is that better for sound? Sometimes when I change between Zoom, usually it's too loud for Zoom, so I turn it down for Zoom. All right, cool. Thanks for the feedback on that, because I want folks to be able to hear me for sure. So we've made it so you can collect all of the cherries. However, let's see here. What kind of stuff that I have in my notes that I wanted to do? Spawn new cherries after we collect them would be a cool one. So we want to count the active cherries. And once that becomes 0, then we'll spawn some new ones. All right. Well, yeah, I appreciate the feedback though on the sound, because if you can't hear me, then I'm kind of talking to myself. So, but yes, I've also had similar headphones that are like that, for sure. So let's go down to our collect cherry. I think this is where we would want to put this checking, that just sees how many cherries are left. So if maybe we put it in update. I don't know. I think it's probably fine here. This cherries, it's count something. Count, I don't know. Count active. There we go. If we have 0 cherries, we could do a game over scene. That's what our autocorrect is suggesting, but I don't think that'd be great. Console log. Ugh. All cherries collected. So we will just test this functionality, make sure it works. And we'll go and collect all the cherries. Just avoid my enemies here real quick. All right, here's that. There we go, all cherries collected. So now we can just spawn a new set of cherries from our spawn cherries. And I do think I'm going to put in cherry amount. We're going to pass that in so that we can change the amount of cherries that spawned every single time we spawn cherries. So if I go up here, where did I first spawn the cherries? Right here. Put spawn cherries 7. Here, we're going to put spawn cherries 7 again. But the reason I added that parameter is so we can spawn a different amount of cherries every time. Like this time we want to spawn 7 cherries. That's cool. Oof. Reset the game. Keep forgetting about these little enemies. Should probably turn them off for some of these activities, but there we go. We got 7 more cherries. Oh. So let's see how many cherries I can collect before the enemies get me. Here we go. We got some down here that we can get. These are going to be a little easier. Oh! It's one thing to be terrible at a game, but to be terrible at a game that you built is not ideal. And so far, I'm not that good at the game that I built. Might have to wire this up to a drone controller or something. Or my little Nintendo gamepad. But yeah, thanks for joining the stream, Bloodmaster. We do this every week. I work on this game, and David Neal is on Thursdays working on another JavaScript game. So we do a lot of JavaScript game stuff here. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to see what kind of high score I can get here. Eventually, you know, as we go on and make this thing harder and harder, we have the playable version of the game, which I dropped in the chat earlier. And it would be really cool if folks could play and show me your high score. Right now, it's not that hard. How close are you to finishing this? I don't know, probably a couple months away. I have a lot of ideas for it. It may never be finished truly because, so the plans that I have for this is to make this first level like a really cool level. I want to make a lot of really cool, awesome gameplay and enemies and things like that. And then, of course, I want to create new levels. So once you get through the first level, you go to the second level, and it's going to be completely different and have completely different types of gameplay. So it may not be done for a long time, but I think it will be playable and cool and awesome within a couple months. And I'm not sure what you mean by release it, because I have already released it. I have a playable version online, but we might release it to some of the game websites and things like that, so people can play it. The idea there being feedback. This is never going to be a game for sale. This is just one that we're building to show people how to build JavaScript video games. And I'm doing this for Pluralsight and getting paid for it, so it would feel not right if I were to sell this and make a bunch of money off it. Don't think I could anyway. Don't think this is ever going to be a money-making game. However, it is going to be a fun game, for sure. I'm going to make sure that this is a very playable and fun game. Might see if we can make it work on mobile or something. There's a lot of stuff. So I hope that's probably not the greatest answer to the question, but totally would have played this on Congregate. Ah, yeah, I remember Congregate was awesome. And that's kind of my goal, is I wanted to make this look like kind of an old school game. This is like a 16-bit, Super Nintendo type thing. Wanted to make it like an old school game and kind of like the old Flash games at Congregate and other places. Kind of have a little bit of that reminiscent feeling to it. But yeah, I'm going to just keep adding to it. Who knows? I mean, we might end up doing this for a year or two, for all I know. And it could end up being multiplayer and all kinds of stuff by then. Who knows? As long as Pluralsight's going to allow me to work on this thing, I'm going to work on it, pretty much. So we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish in this hour, which I wanted to make these cherries that you could grab. Maybe we could try in the last 7 minutes of this stream, I could try to respawn the enemies when you collect. Now this might make things a little trickier. I don't think I needed to pass the player in. In the collect cherry, I passed the player in, but I don't think I really needed to do that. Probably, so I'm not doing anything with the player. Could make an animation or something, but for now, we don't even need to pass the player in there. Because all we're doing is we're making the cherry disappear, right? Oh no, I do need the player. Look at that. Once I collect a cherry, I'm out of here. So I was right. We'll leave the player in there for now. That is very interesting. I'm going to investigate why that is. Because yeah, the player's back. But yeah, we've done so much stuff on this game in the last couple months. And a lot of it's been a lot of little things that we've done to the game. Just in player movement, animation, stuff like that. This thing was really primitive and terrible not very long ago, and now it's cooler and more awesome. So where do we spawn the enemies? We have move the enemy. This is mostly our enemy stuff right here, right? So this is where we move the enemy. Where do we create the enemy? Because I feel like we need to spawn some more enemies. And that is way up here, where we add the enemy, right? So how can we do this? Add another, let's try to add another mad bird. And we can just take this, put it down here. And just add another mad bird. And we won't find out exactly what this does until we collect all the cherries. So I probably should have just spawned one cherry. Oh, yikes. Get me out of here. I'll spawn one cherry next time. Okay, there we go. Now we've got another. We have another enemy spawned. However, it flew off the screen and crunched. Oh, Bloodmasker's asking, do I do game dev for a living? No. I'm a developer advocate at Pluralsight. And so I do a lot of software development. Mainly, and we had this idea a while back to build a JavaScript game. I'm not a professional JavaScript developer. I wouldn't even call myself an expert, but I've been a software developer and engineer for like 20 years, so I've figured out enough JavaScript to build stuff. And yeah, not a game developer for a living, which I think makes it cool because the whole point of this stream is to teach people how to build JavaScript games. And if we can build this without being professional expert game developers, then you can too. Like you absolutely can. I'll send you a link here actually. Here is our GitHub. I'll drop this in the chat really quick. Source code for this game. If you want to take it and clone it and start working on it, you can kind of see what's going on with it. And yeah. So I need to fix my spawning stuff. So I think I'm going to copy all of this mad bird stuff and I'm going to make a function called make mad bird. This is another one of those like your future self will thank you type things. We're going to take everything from mad bird. Here we go. We're going to take this, cut this. I'm going to make a function called create mad bird. Create an enemy called a mad bird. And so this is, we can take this out of here. And instead, we're going to say create mad bird here. And this is a mad bird that my wife drew that's really cool. We're going to take all the mad bird code, including moving, playing animations, all of this. Let's put all of this in the mad bird, create mad bird function. So hopefully, if my theory is correct, and we're at the top of the hour, but we'll go over a little bit just to see if this works. If my theory is correct, we're going to spawn cherries 1. So here we're just going to do create a mad bird instead of all of that other stuff we did. Where are we spawning cherries? Spawning here, we're just going to spawn 1 cherry just to make this a little bit easier to get to that point. Oh, and that did not work. Read collide objects. Okay, so our collision detection needs to be put in there also. Not a problem. Hopefully. So for this enemy, add collider. This one is for enemy. This one's for mad bird. So everything mad bird related, I think I need to drop into this function. Create mad bird, including the colliders, all of this stuff. There was another mad bird thing I saw up there that I need to look at. Bluebird. This enemy, this player, this mad bird. This is a collider with our player. We need to add that in. Otherwise, I got to hit undo a bunch of times. There we go. But now we're creating a absolute ton of mad birds. But let's see if let's see if the collision detection works. It does. However, I think I'm creating way too many instances of this mad bird. So this create mad bird, I put in update. Wrong place to put it. So we've talked about these functions before. We have the create, we have preload, create, update, and I put that in update, which means 20 times a second it's going to be called, approximately 20 or 30 times a second. So that's why we had a million mad birds being created all at once. So there's our mad bird. There's another mad bird after we collect the cherry. However, for some reason, our mad bird is not moving, as you can see. So let's figure that out. And we're getting really close. We're getting close to what we want to do. Mad bird, move the enemy, should be right here. So why doesn't it move the enemy? Let's do some console logging here. Log this mad bird X. Just like pretty much every form of software development ever, if you can log like this, you should log like this. Mad bird Y is mad bird Y. We could say mad bird X is 400, Y is 0. So that is interesting. Put a space in here. Something someone said on our last stream was every time a developer gets stuck on their own code, they say this is interesting. That's exactly what I do. Like every time. So every time I say that's interesting, when usually what's interesting is the fact that I wrote something that's not working. Okay, so after the move, those should be different. They're not. What happens when we create another mad bird? So the update, the move things are going to have to be in the update. Like that much is pretty clear. Because this move the enemy stuff here needs to be called, like I said, in update, it needs to be called every, once every frame to actually make this mad bird move. So we'll go way up here to move the enemy. And it's actually right next to this move enemy. So, okay. And we need to play an animation. So this mad bird, animals play. Actually, just for now, we'll see if this just fixes our problem where we want our mad bird to move around. There we go. Our mad bird's moving around again. However, the mad bird went off the screen and didn't reappear like the blue bird, so we'll have to figure that out. Here's another mad bird. Here's another mad bird. So we just need to figure out how to prevent that from going off the screen, which looks like this code right here will do it, which might be, yeah. We need to take this and put it in update. We can add our colliders and everything there, but for Madbird stuff, here we go. So if I do this right, we should be able to have the Madbirds on the screen. It should go off. There we go. And come down like the other one. Now we've got a second Madbird. But those Madbirds aren't moving. So we're creating more of them, which is what I want to do. I want to spawn more enemies every time we've collected all the cherries, which in this case is just one cherry so that we can iterate a little bit faster. But look at that. There is an impossible to collect cherry. Cool. So move the enemy. I think we're gonna have to create an array of mad birds. I'm gonna have to look this up on the phaser documentation to see exactly how you spawn a set of enemies, because I think we're going to have to create an array of mad birds and move them. I think that's how we're going to have to do it, because we're cloning them, but we're not really cloning them properly. I'm just going to see if we already have an array created. Maybe there's already an array created. Like we could say this Madbird 1. Does that exist? Is that a thing? I don't know. We'll find out. No, it's not. It's not a thing. So what we could do is put in a breakpoint here. Start debugging with Node.js. Phaser's not defined. Actually, I haven't set up any debugging with this in a proper fashion. So I don't know if that's going to work, and I don't have time to do that today. However, what I'd really want to find out is what the subsequent Madbirds are like. So we could say this Madbird if Madbirds, there we go, count active. That's right, we could use count active for this just like we do with the cherries. So if count active is greater than 1. So if we have more than 1, then we're going to create a Madbird in an array. Let's try the array idea. Before we shut down the stream, let's just try the array idea. And the way I'm going to do that is say this Madbird array of +1. This is a wild thing that probably isn't going to work. This is one of those things where I'm saying, like, I'm not a JavaScript developer. You'll see very clearly that I'm applying software engineering ideas to JavaScript and seeing in Phaser and seeing if it complies. This might work. Yikes, who knows? Process exited, we'll go in the terminal. It does not. Let's see why. Cannot read properties of undefined count active. I should have done that before. So let's comment out all of this for now. All of this. And just see if this is something that we can do. Negative. No count active on the mad bird. Because I had it pluralized. Oh boy. Okay. Well, we're getting closer. Undefined count active. So let's say this mad bird is created, right? This mad bird. Let's see what kind of complete. Cherry amount. There is a count active. Mad bird count active. It's available. But why does it crash? Undefined count active. Instead of true, put in this. Count active. I would like to count the amount of birds that are active. And I feel like this should be possible. Because we have cherries count active up here. Let's go look up here. This cherries, if this cherries count active is true, got it commented out a bunch of times. That is the only place we're using it is with the cherries. Should be totally a thing. So what's the difference between mad bird and a cherry? That'll be the next thing to figure out. This player. Now when we create cherry spin, let's see, physics, add collider, enemy, it's a sprite. And we'll do a little Googling here. Count how many, yeah, it says count active. Default is true for counting active, and an inactive is false members. So it totally should work. Count active, true. From the group. Phaser game objects group. So if we do physics add group, which is this cherries, so that's the problem, is I needed to add a group. Create a mad bird group. This mad birds, this physics add group. So I should be able to count the amount of mad birds. Now when we add a cherry, We'll go to here, spawn cherries. We'll look at how we spawn cherries. Let cherry, this cherry, we'll create a cherry. Add a collider. Cherries count active. So yeah, we should have mad birds. Count active. This should work. Negative. Uncaught type error. Reading X. And that is at 224. This Madbird X. This is when we go to move the enemy. Now it does not work. Let's comment this out for now. And I could just be way off on what I'm doing, and that's fine. If so, I'll just roll this stuff back. Okay, I don't see any mad bird around. So, when I spawn cherries here, say cherry amount, this cherries create XY cherry. This is how we need to create our mad bird. So for create mad bird, let mad bird we're going to create this at 100 by 100, whatever. Doesn't matter. Let's just see if it works. There we go. There's a mad bird with no collider or anything, but we're close. We're very close. And instead of this cherries create, we need to do this mad birds create. This will spawn a instance of the mad bird, which is what we want. Mad bird set bounce. We had their bounce set at 0.2, and then we need to add all these colliders again for this bird. And so this I think will work. This mad bird should be an instance of a group of mad birds. So we don't need to do any of this stuff. We just need to create an instance of a mad bird. And then we're going to have to move it. So we'll go here, start, something broke right away. Look at that. Collide objects. So we are still running into that same collision problem. Is parent. So this physics add collider. This mad bird. Probably this mad bird's 0. Negative. That didn't work either. Cannot read. And so it's definitely in this collider problem here. Mad bird. And I'm not really sure why. Oh, maybe it's a scoping issue. Maybe I just need mad bird that I just created to be the mad bird. There we go. See if it creates another one. It does create another one at the exact same spot. Let's check our collision detection and see if we die when we touch the mad bird. We do. Okay, so now we just need to move the mad bird. So this creates another instance of a group of mad birds, if that makes sense. So checking the chat here, just making sure. All right. So we can just delete all that stuff. Now, one issue we're going to have is we're going to have a group of mad birds, and we need to move them. So if mad birds count active, we want to count the active ones. Is greater than 0. So if we have mad birds active, we want to move them. Now the autocomplete just put in this, if this mad bird's children, iterate function child. Let's see what on earth that means. Because I don't know what was just, yeah, this needs to move, but maybe this is where we move child.x equals 2. Why doesn't it like that? Whoops. And this should move it. 1, 5. Let's see. It's kind of moving it. Not the way I want it to. Which is how we were moving the child before. So this is how we were moving the mad bird before. Doesn't seem to work quite as well here. It's close. Now we've got a moving bird. However, we need to now check this stuff. So that it goes off the screen and comes back onto the screen. And instead of this mad bird, we're going to say child and child. Oops. And we're going to put it within that loop. Cut, paste. Totally awesome. Start. It does not like it. Mad bird. Okay. Just forgot to update a couple things here. Oof. This says game config with if child x minus child width divided by 2. It does not like this game config with all of the sudden. This is probably something good to abstract out of there anyway. Screen width is not defined. That screen width is defined there. There we go. That's something that we should have done anyway. Now we've got more mad birds coming in hot. Every time we collect all the cherries, we get more mad birds. Now we've got just a slew of mad birds. So I went over on this stream like I do all the time. That is constantly something I do on this stream, is I go over. If you're not following us on Twitch, you absolutely should. We do this stuff all the time. On Twitch, we always stream on Twitch. We build games on Twitch, like we've done here. And so my goal for this stream today was to make it so you could collect items, keep a score, and regenerate the items. Then I decided to add a little bit more and have it spawn enemies whenever you create all of the items. And this is what we have now. We have tons of enemies everywhere. One last thing, I think I would like to randomize where this child is placed. And I think that's what child enable body. When I spawn a mad bird, I want it to spawn at a random location. So once again, we're going to use this randomizer that we used earlier. See this phaser math between thing? We're going to use this again to spawn the new birds, because we just want them, we don't want them to be like, we don't want them to come in the same place every time. We want them to spawn randomly. So in our create mad bird function, we'll have it spawn randomly. Reset the game. There we go. There's a mad bird over there. And I'll wait until this fella flies by me. We'll go up here. There we go. There we go. They're just spawning all over the place now, which is exactly what we want. Mad birds as far as the eye can see. So we have accomplished a lot on this stream today. I'm thrilled about. I'm happy about. Nothing's worse than a stream where you just try to do one little thing and struggle on it over and over. If you've been watching the stream for a while, you have seen that we've had streams like that where we just struggle over and over and over. But that wasn't the case today. Today, we accomplished a lot. So today we have added cherries. So you have to collect cherries. As you collect cherries, you get a higher score, which is awesome. And we've made it so that when you collect all of the cherries, new cherries are respawned, new fruits, I should say, and a new enemy, which adds to it, right? And so we switched this to one cherry just so that we could iterate faster. However, we'll change it back to 7 cherries. Here, let's see, collect cherry. If we're going to collect 7. And we will, up here where we're spawning a cherry somewhere, I feel like we spawned a cherry. I don't know, somewhere up here. There it is. 7 cherries. So this will slow it down just a little bit, but there's our randomly spawned bird. So we made it so that you can, and I got to get away from this enemy. So we made it so that you can collect these cherries. You get a score for each cherry. When all the cherries are collected, it spawns a new set of cherries, and it spawns an enemy. We turned this enemy into a sprite that we could respawn over and over, and I kind of drug through that because I'm not super familiar with how to do that until now. Now we both know how to do this. So next week, we're going to turn the other enemy into a spawnable enemy also that you can spawn from a group. We're going to add in some more enemies next week. We're going to add in some more items to collect to kind of add to the challenge. We'll probably change this map a little bit too. I want to be able to run through the map and do stuff. And yeah, so I'm pretty happy about this. I'm happy committing this code that we've written today. And let's just check. Oh, there's 7 more cherries and another mad bird. So we're rocking. We're doing great. This is awesome. Oh, and we fixed an error today. So this game has come a long ways in the last couple months. You know, we build it once a week. The only work I do on this game is on stream. So I don't do anything on the side. You know, like after the stream is over, do cleanup, do add features, none of that. Everything is built right here on the stream that you're watching right now. So I think everything, basically you can just go watch our previous streams on YouTube and see exactly how we built this game from start to finish. But it's been a whole bunch of little incremental things. Like today we did this little thing, you know, and then the next stream we'll do this little thing, and we fix these little bugs along the way, and it's starting to get close to being an actual playable game. That's cool. And as Bloodmaster, our new friend, said, you know, are you going to release it? We are going to push it out there. You know, we'll find some good places to release that have free games. We do have it on itch.io already right now. So before I wrap this up, I am going to show you, I'm going to once again post the GitHub for this in the chat. GitHub source again, and our playable version, which I need to bring that up again. The playable version, which I'll update both of these today. So all of the code that we wrote in the stream, I will upload to GitHub, and then I will update the playable version so that you can play it. If you'd like to fork this, if you'd like to mess with it, you can download it from GitHub. If you fork it, I'll check it out. I'll see it. Maybe we'll bring in some features. You could do a pull request. But anyway, wanted to say thank you, everybody, for joining us. Follow us on Twitch. This is where we are all the time. I noticed we had a ton of people on LinkedIn, which is cool, but we are always, always, always on Twitch. And we got some new stuff coming in a couple weeks. David Neal's here on Thursdays. He's doing a JavaScript game. So I will see you all soon. And I am going to find someone on Twitch to raid. For those of you who are on Twitch, I'll find a cool, awesome place to go raid. Thank you very much for joining. And I'll see you next week for sure.